Hey, good afternoon. In this moment is April 9th. In this moment is 5 o'clock. And this is a class of exam preparation. In this moment, I'm trying to call one student. Only one student tried to get in this class, but she doesn't answer. So I will call her again. No, let me check. No, it doesn't answer. So for that reason, I'm gonna record this class. I'm gonna explain what consists the class of today. So in this moment, I'm going to share my screen, and this class is exam preparation. Okay, this is the third week. So in this week, the idea of exam preparation is about to give some tips for listening activities for Cambridge exams or English international exams. Okay, so my class, how I plan, how I plan it. Okay, first I start with a warm up, asking questions, random questions about some strategies for exams. Okay, in listening strategy for exams. So the idea is to play a game with them. Let me show you. Okay, here there are some questions, right? So the idea is start with asking questions about this. In listening exams, do you listen and panic, read question first, write everything? Continue. The next question is, before listening, what should you do? And students must answer. There are 6 questions. Can you see? If you don't understand every word, you should, and student answer the question. Number 4 is, what should you listen for during the audio? So students answer this. Then fifth question is, if you hear a word you don't know, you should. The last question is, after listening, what is important? Okay, when the students finish answer those questions, I'm going to continue doing a little tips and let the students to read this explanations in international exams. Read the question first. Number 2 is predict the type of answer, number, place, time, name. Listen for keywords. Okay, I let some students to read this, and then I correct the pronunciation and explain these are the tips of this class for international exams. So then I let students answer those questions like a pre-listening activity. Okay, where is the event? What time does it start? How much does it cost? Okay, so here I ask you these questions for the students, because the next activity is a listening activity. So they must to understand, and then they must to answer. For beginner, for begin the class, I start with this 3 questions. Okay, then students will answer more questions. Then I put the audio. I put it on YouTube.
The school trip on Friday.
Students
We are visiting
listen
the Science
the
Museum in the
audio.
city center. The bus leaves at 8:30 in the morning from the school entrance. Please arrive at least 15 minutes early. The ticket costs $10 and students need to bring their own lunch.
Okay, in this moment, I put twice this audio, and then I ask you the questions before. Okay, where is the event? What time does it start? How much does it cost? If they answer correctly the questions, so mm, I said well done, positive sentences for them. Then I create a Kahoot game. Okay, so the idea is I have a Kahoot and there are seven questions, and I let compete the students about according to the audio who is the winner. The three podium students that answer all the questions in the short time. Okay, then students, I let some students read this. Other students must to listen carefully and observe. When they finish to do that, I let one student to complete this information, okay, according to the last last listening student answer. Then I ask them uh, this question these questions about, did you catch everything the first time? What helped you more? First or second listening? Okay. Students answer no. The first, no teacher. The majority of students said no teacher. The second one. Why? Because at the moment that I can observe, read the conversation, I can record or I can take more information that only listening, because it's more complicated the first one to listen only without subtitles. Okay, and explain. Then I explain that in international exams they only play twice. Okay, and then the next activity I explained that we are going to do this activity. The last one is a morning briefing. So we are going here. Okay. I let students, I recommend they pay attention carefully because this is a British pronunciation and sometimes it's very difficult to get it. So I put twice the audio. Then I ask them if they understood, if they didn't understand. Then I put I let the students to do this activity about true or false according to the audio, and the other activity is to fill this giving information or giving instructions. Okay. Then when they finish to do this, I put again the audio with the transcription. Okay, like here, and then I say, okay, do you let's check it out if the answers of the audio was correct or no, it was true or false. No, teacher, no. Now I understood better because I read, and for that reason they take the best decision here. Okay, and then when they finish to do this, I send the attendance form in the chat. That's it. This is the class of today. So for that reason, in this moment it's 5:10 p.m. and the student didn't connect in this class. So they have passed 10 minutes. So that's it. This is, I'm gonna stop recording and thank you. Bye bye. Stop the